All right, on this Wednesday, here is an update on a 48 first alert weather day. We went ahead and went with that for North Alabama, southern middle Tennessee, for the threat for severe weather. What we don't know right now is going to be, of course, the timing. There's some uncertainty on the timing and, of course, the strength. We do know that 850 jet, that 850 millibar jet, about 4,500 feet above the ground, it's going to be strong. Not necessarily as strong as the one last Friday, but this is another storm system we have to monitor closely. And I do want to stress, and maybe there's other people in parts of the country farther north, I'm going to address some of that here on YouTube as well. But I want to stress the straight line wind damage threat from North Alabama, even up into the Midwest, is going to be fairly high with these storms. And last week we had these 70 to 80 mile per hour winds, and they weren't just your regular wind gusts. They were widespread damaging wind gusts. And within this line, there's also going to be the possibility of some stronger tornadoes. So I mentioned the timing is uncertain right now, but also the storm mode late Friday afternoon, at least here in North Alabama, there's a warm front that may be in the area. And whenever you get these boundaries in the area with a lot of wind shear, that may increase the threat for some strong tornadoes. So here's how I think things are going to kind of play out. And if you haven't watched what I forecast for, basically, I like to break it down into three areas and avoid any confusion that sometimes happens with some of the outlooks. But early Friday morning, we're going to start to see a line of thunderstorms coming out of Oklahoma into Missouri. And then by the noon hour Friday, a line of storms develops. And then this all tracks to the east and a bit northeast. And the area here in the grayish white area, that's where I think the highest impact wind and tornado threat is going to be within that line. But again, still a lot of uncertainty on how this is going to play out. Take a look at what is behind all of this powerful storm system. And kind of like last week, it's almost like we have two circulations, kind of the Fujiwara effect here. And I do want to show you what I'm talking about. You got one circulation back here, and the other one looks like it in the upper levels has moved in to San Francisco and north. So all sorts of problems with this, and there is a link here. All the storms we've had this year, not only have they overachieved, they've also pretty much been big storms in California and moved down the road. I'm going to talk a little bit about North Alabama, southern middle Tennessee here, and the low-level jet stream I mentioned earlier, the 4,000 to 5,000 feet. And this is what gave us a lot of problems with high-impact wind with the last event. Notice this is the morning hours, not much going on. But as we take a look at the afternoon, I'm going to kind of go up to the north here just a bit. You can see this low-level jet. And anytime we get these little spikes here, these little jet streaks is what they're called, anytime we had that with the line of thunderstorms last Friday night here in North Alabama, even Mississippi, that's where we had our maximum wind damage happening as that jet streak got kind of pulled in to the very heavy rain. Notice here, this is about 8 o'clock, this really strong jet stream at 4,000 to 5,000 feet again. It's way above the ground, so these numbers I'm plotting here are not surface winds. They're what could be pulled to the surface. Notice east of Memphis there, you've got this really probably 80, 90 mile per hour jet streak within the low-level jet. And that's one thing that we've really noticed this year is this is happening a lot more. So we're not sure what's behind this, but we're definitely going to look into it. Notice all these little streaks up here around just before 10 o'clock up in Tennessee and around Nashville, and this one probably at 90 miles per hour to 100 miles per hour as you get east of Bolivar. Now, as far as North Alabama goes, our winds are starting to pick up here. This will be in advance of a line. We're going to show you that line, and we're going to talk about Cape as well coming up here in just a few minutes. But notice how this entire really strong upper level wind moves across the area. And this will intensify the threat for severe weather. And this wind shear is going to be pretty crazy too. So that threat for tornadoes, a quick spin-up tornado especially, and they may be not only quick spin-up, but they could also produce quite a bit of damage. They could be strong tornadoes. So as we go later into the night, notice these peaks up here, and this is what we'll watch during the coverage as we go through this. Another peak near Nashville, Hohenwald, northeast of Shelbyville up in Tennessee. So I think the bigger widespread impact for damaging winds may actually end up in parts of Middle Tennessee. And as I mentioned here in North Alabama, we're kind of on the tail end of it. But some of the forecast guidance does kind of push some high winds through the Huntsville metro area as well. So this is the thing. We're going to have to time this out and look for consistency with the model guidance over time. And as we go overnight, not much changes there. So here's what we're looking at as far as the thunderstorms, maybe around early in the day here in North Alabama, but then watch as this line comes in from the west. Here's the line, and the next thing I'm going to show you is the Cape. But these are going to be feeding off that low-level jet stream screaming in from the southwest, so damaging straight-line winds, embedded tornadoes. And then as we continue on here, past 2 o'clock in the morning, this is the graph model. And one of the things it's doing, it's slowing it down a bit. So I think this is going to go either way, hour or two either side until we kind of narrow it down. Again, as I showed you, the storm's still out in California, still has to cross the Rocky Mountains, so still a lot of changes expected. And as we continue on into Saturday morning, this all moves off into Georgia. Now, this is the convective available potential energy, the thunderstorm fuel, I like to call it. And you can see not much happening, even though we may get a few showers and thunder showers here around 2 o'clock Friday. That will not be severe. Maybe some elevated, smaller hail type storms there. But notice how all this cape really starts to build across northern Mississippi and then continue into western Tennessee around 5 o'clock. And look how that climbs. And anytime you get above 1,000, you really increase the threat for severe weather and strong updrafts and larger hail. And as we continue on here, I'll get rid of that. Notice how the line really starts to intensify east of Memphis, really running into this highly unstable air, and those really strong upper level winds are going to be pulling this. And the surface winds will be increasing to about 30 miles per hour. May need a wind advisory for this as well. But notice how this crosses the state line between Mississippi and Alabama around 9 o'clock. And all of these storms here to the north, they're taking that similar track. They're following that southwest low-level jet stream that's cruising through here with those gusts around 80 to 90, even 100 miles per hour. So what's yet to be seen is, will we see new development out here? And that's 2 o'clock in the morning. So again, this is definitely an overnight event we'll have to watch and keep a very close eye on. The timing is going to change a little bit over the next 24 hours, but we're finally getting into that point where the high resolution models are starting to come in about every 3 hours. So we'll just have to keep you up to date on that. Again, be prepared for about anything. No two storm systems this time of year are ever alike, but they all kind of have a common thread, and that is they have a risk for severe weather. Now, looking ahead to late next week, we're going to have very active weather, a lot of humidity. It's going to get muggy, periods of showers and storms with highs approaching 80 degrees. So we are entering, again, our peak severe weather season here in the Tennessee Valley, and really for other parts of the country, it peaks from April all the way in to June. So we'll keep you up to date. Thanks for checking in, and feel free to like, subscribe here to my YouTube page.